I'm Allie. I came out after 20 years of marriage and I have 3 kids.
I'm Melissa and I have 2 kids and I came out at 37 after an 11-year marriage.
This podcast is about coming out later and the struggles and victories that come with it.
When coming out feels like the end of the world, but it's really just the beginning.
This is the Lesbian Chronicles. Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles.
The Crypt edition.
Listen, guys, I gotta warn you.
Perfect.
I gotta warn you, we discovered the sound effects on the Rodecaster. How did we go this long without even knowing we can do sound effects?
I mean, there's buttons and they're unlabeled, and I think it's been a little scary to touch them. Let's be honest. It's amazing, though.
It is so amazing. Like, please say something like awesome, because I'm going to start throwing these in. This is going to be a big one.
Do you remember which ones they are?
They're not labeled. I have to label them. But this one to me is going to be good. And then I think for our episode today, Tales from the Catalyst.
That's perfect.
It's like
perfect.
I wish that I wish I'd known about these. There's so many places they go.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, I think we got to dive in because Melissa is in a big hurry today.
I am. I've got a dodgeball game, so
right.
Like I'm 12.
Right. Well, that's okay, because I think I've been looking for a way to read just some emails, just so people feel not quite so alone. So I think maybe at the end of the episode, if there's time and you have to bolt, maybe I'll just share some emails.
Perfect.
Okay, very cool. Well, we are talking about PTSD that comes from the Catalyst relationship, and then per usual, Melissa's worried about what people are going to think. So
I know. I've got to have like a disclaimer.
With your disclaimer.
Let's have a disclaimer for this episode. And that is that the catalysts that were in our lives are good people.
Well,
and
speak for yours is. I'm just kidding. There's no way
I hold no hatred, whatever. And I've said this before. If she called me and needed something, I would absolutely be there.
Listen, if you're listening, my catalyst, don't call me if you need something.
It was a tumultuous time, and I understand and I can see how difficult it is to be in that kind of situation. Yeah. So, but I also know that a lot of people deal with similar situations in coming out in your first relationship, and especially if you're like still married, separated, getting a divorce. There's a lot of shit happening in your life, and it's confusing for both people. So,
okay, I promise I won't keep doing that, but that did seem like it needed it.
Debbie Downer.
Debbie Downer. I was just going to say it is kind of because like all these disclaimers, like just people just want you to free speech. Like, don't worry about it.
But I
actually love your catalyst.
Warrior.
Your catalyst is a total sweetheart. The times that I've hung out with her, I enjoy the shit out of her. So I have no ill will towards her. I have ill will towards a few subsequent ones, but the first one to me was a home run. The one you're with now is a total home run. So, and I like the other one that you were with right before this one. So I like almost everyone you've dated.
I have dated some really good people.
Yes, you absolutely have. I love the one. I love all but one. So you're pretty good for me, because I don't really.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, you're doing great. Mine, on the other hand, would never be listening. And actually, though, if anyone's listening that could relay this to her, I've always wanted to say this, is that I do feel like the sense of like I owe her a massive thank you, because I don't think I would have my partner if it hadn't been for our history. That kind of intertwined and led me to where I am now. So I'm very much grateful, thankful. Right. I don't need to ever speak to her again, but I am grateful.
Yeah. And mine gave me a crash course in the lesbian world. So,
yeah. Yep.
You know,
she gave us all a crash course.
She did. We would go to dinner with her, and everybody, it was like, she might as well have been like sitting at the front of the classroom with a textbook.
Exactly.
All ears.
All ears, like a big eyes wide open, learning about the rodeo. Yeah. Anyway, she definitely gave me an education on sex toys.
That's for sure.
I remember
her.
when
her
I
running
first met
joke
her,
was that she sold sex toys.
Yes.
Like that's what she would tell people her joke or her job was. And everyone would believe her every time.
Oh yeah, I know. I was sitting there like, wow, Melissa, this is like really interesting that you would end up with this like sex toy salesperson. But she wasn't, obviously.
What she does.
No.
But anyway.
In any event, we're not talking about that. What we're talking about are lessons, hardships, maybe not hardships, maybe some things are good, but things that you come into your life with years later that were gifts from the catalyst relationship. And I think what spurred the conversation is that I have, as much as I have gratitude about all the lessons I learned and that I got to come out and that she pushed me out of the nest, she was hard on me in ways I likely needed someone to be hard on me. There's also things that I carry into my current relationship that I know are a direct result of that relationship. And some of the things like the anxiety around if my partner's angry at me or, to your point, says certain trigger words to me that I remember from my catalyst relationship that was so, I was impressionable then. And it left me with some scars now that I'm having to deal with because I can't, it drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not chill about an argument. Like I need to like get to the bottom of it. I can't stand it if I think like something's wrong or, and I'm defensive. I find myself really defensive. This just happened this weekend where Maria's like, you get way too defensive about stuff that's like seemingly not a big deal. But it's like, I know that's a result of that early relationship because I was never like that before.
Yeah. And it's good too that you like can link that. Cause I think it took me a while to like kind of connect, like that's where I'm getting upset about certain things. Like if someone's doing the silent treatment, I'm like that. I can't do it.
No.
Like if you need some time to think and chill, like perfectly fine, do that.
Or not perfectly fine.
But can we be in agreement that we're going to talk about this a little later?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Also like I can't stand if someone acts like they're going to abruptly leave, you know, and this relationship's just over and there is no other talk about like what's happening. Like to me, like that triggers me so much.
Oh,
like
it's so threatening.
Marina would never do that, but you know, like the thought of that, I had to say that, like, please don't ever just like say that you're leaving and you're done.
Yeah.
Like the words I'm done here. I'm done. Like will set me over the edge.
Yeah. And it's also,
you know?
just like, it's like the abandonment and all these other things that come up, which is something in my catalyst relationship. I can't tell you how many times she would like one day be way in, like, this is all I ever want. I can't wait till, you know, we can be together and that, you know, your divorce is over. And then literally within 24 hours would be like, I can't do this anymore, like freaking out. And then I would be left kind of like, oh shit, I'm like completely uprooted my life. I don't have a community yet. And she's bailing. And I guarantee our listeners that are in those early relationships have this happen because in group, everybody was having this happen.
Right.
It's such a common fucking thing of like, and it's to their credit. They couldn't stand it. They're trying to date someone who's married. You know, even if you're in the process of divorce, it's a painful, hard time for everybody. So I'm not like totally lumping on that it's her fault, but I'm saying like it was so disorienting for me to be like, oh my God, I'm blowing up my entire life. And now this woman that I'm kind of like putting it on is bailing.
Right. And I think that kind of brings home the point of like, we all cling to safety.
We cling to safety.
One reason why leaving our husbands is hard because that was safe.
Yeah.
And then you meet this first person and they feel safe.
Right.
And then when they're getting, you know, they're feeling unsafe, they push you away and you're like, fuck, I'm out here in the middle of the ocean and I'm alone.
I am in the middle of the ocean.
And like, there's nothing here for me.
No.
And I've blown up my life and I've done all this and blah, 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 you know? And so I think that's, and it just triggers you into this, like, this mode of like, clinging to that person.
Panic. I mean, how many times, like if I think about like how many times I would like drive over to her place to like fix it. Yeah. And it's like, I am not that girl. Like I am just not her at all. Like the thought of that person now, I just want to hug her and be like, that is so unnecessary. If this person is causing you such stress that you're so worried and scared and anxious, and your kids are little and they're feeling that from you, like clearly this is not the right person for you. But it's like,
remember
you can't
how
see it.
we were like, you were going full on Favreau.
Oh yeah, I went full Favreau.
You know, like we mentioned Swingers in the other episode, like that same thing where like John Favreau at the end of the movie is calling that girl on
10
repeat
times.
and like,
Just boom, boom, the voicemail. I mean, it's humiliating.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's it. It's not humiliating. It was you trying to find that safety.
Yeah. And then it is so true, because it is just about that. Because once I found group and I had this other like strong place to hold on to, it's like little by little, I just didn't need the nonsense anymore. It was almost like, I remember one night we were going out and I was supposed to go out with her. And then of course she like blew up and like, I'm not going, and like this whole thing. And it was like the old me would have like begged her to come, or like given up my night and just like tried to work it out with her. I honestly didn't care. I mean, it was almost like, good, don't come. Like
it was like your buttons had been pushed one
too many times where I was just like, it's easier for me, honestly, for you not to come. And I'm going to go have a great night with my friends. And then I did have a great night with my friends. And I think it started to just reinforce that I don't need this anymore. And that's kind of was my saving grace, which I think is another testament to why you need community, because then you don't become that pathetic Favreau calling 20 times.
Right. Well, and that's very much what happened to me. It's like my buttons got pushed. I used to like not fight back, you know, and be like, like I said, this little kitten that was just like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, what did I do? And then it slowly became like, wait a minute, like I'm not going to put up with this. I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something back. And I would. And like that's when like our arguments kind of got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But one of our last ones, she was trying to cancel a trip that we had like the next morning. She was like, I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I'm going. I don't care that the hotel's in your name. The plane ticket is in my name. I will go and I will get my own hotel, and I'm not letting this trip go. Exactly. How stressful. But at that point, I think our relationship ended just a few weeks later.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, I can't. We did go on the trip together, but I just couldn't deal with that, like that instability anymore.
Yeah,
that's another thing. I'm like, don't sit here and tell me you're going to cancel a trip or whatever.
Yeah, I don't like. It's the instability. It creates unsafety, and then it makes me not thrive in any way. Like I've got to work. I've got to raise these kids. I've got other massive things going on in my life that I don't. When that is unstable, everything is affected. So I just feel this sense of like she was starting to damage the rest of my life.
Right.
Damaging my relationship with my ex. You know? So to me, it's like, I look back and I'm surprised that happened. But as I got stronger and we were going to group, it was becoming more and more obvious to me that I saw right through it. And in the end, it's like the PTSD, I think you talked about, have a nice day. Like that should be something sweet. But from your catalyst back then, that meant you suck, go back to your family. I'm not going to talk to you the rest of the day.
I'm not going to talk to you the day. Yeah. And I'd be sitting there like, what did I say? What triggered this? What's making her do this? But I will say, like we mentioned at the beginning, it's like, I can see now, I'm glad that happened.
Me too.
And the fact that I am in a relationship now with someone who is fresh out of a relationship, a long-term relationship with someone, the experience that I had with my catalyst has allowed me to give Marina the grace that she needs at this time.
That's valid.
Which I don't think I would have been able to do.
Yeah.
Had I not had that experience.
That's really valid, actually. Yeah. Like to your point, like the grace to be open to watching your partner kind of grieve another partner in some ways.
Yeah. And realize that, there's still going to be times where there needs to be communication there.
Yeah.
Just because they're not together anymore doesn't mean that they don't have things that need to be sorted out.
Yeah.
And I can't hover and I can't let every interaction ruin me.
Yeah.
Or ignite me in some way.
Yeah, it's true.
And I really don't think I could do that. I think that whole situation would have been very triggering for me and upsetting if it hadn't been for my past experience.
Right. I totally see that. And I think too, like I agree with all that, and just in the volatility of that relationship allowed me to see what I can't tolerate. Like some people thrive on that. Some people love the drama of the ups and the downs.
Some people love it.
They love it. And I just, for me personally, I like boring and safe. I just do.
Like in that like state of anxiety.
Yeah. Like I say every night when we go to bed, like when we lay in bed and we have a boring night, I'm like, this is like the highlight of my week. Like I like that stability. I love when our kids are tucked in and there's that, hour and a half window of just quiet darkness. I don't need the wild. I don't need a fight. I like peace in my heart, which is why I think fights are so upsetting for me now, is like, I can't take it if we're like I don't know if I'm worried, like she'll constantly say nobody's leave, like we're so entwined, but I still worry about abandonment. I'm sure it's because of my past, but she has other issues, maybe a little of that too, but I guess I don't know. I still carry that in to this relationship. And maybe it is partly my upbringing with an alcoholic parent, but I think it's also my catalyst relationship where she was always bailing and coming back. And the coming back felt so good. It's like you were willing to put up with the leaving.
Right. And I think to your point, some people, they thrive in that environment. They love that. They love it. And it to have that quote passion and all this stuff. And it is for some people, that's great. Yeah. Go for it. But not for me.
No, I don't even like to be jealous a little. Like the other day there was this, I was at her work and I am jealous by nature, but there's the back to me of a woman who's talking to her, who's like tatted up all down the backs of her arms. But like in my mind, I'm building this like really cool, like hip woman who's like talking to my partner at her work. And when she turned around, I realized I totally knew her and it was like meaningless. But like a little part of me inside for a second was like, fuck, who is this?
Who is this? Hands off that woman.
Yeah. I mean, I would never say anything. I would have a huge smile and go introduce myself. But inside, I'm still that little girl who's scared and jealous. My partner's the same way. Like she gets totally jealous in a really cute way. But
in a really cute way.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Are we ready for some commercial breaks and for me to bounce and go?
Oh yeah, I'm sad you're bouncing. But
get smacked with some dodgeballs.
Let's do a commercial break, and then I'm gonna read some emails to our listeners so they can not feel so alone, and also so this episode won't be too short.
All right.
Enjoy. All right, guys. Well, I am here on my own without my Melissa, but I just thought it would be cool because oftentimes we get these really great emails that I feel like all sound generally the same in many ways. And I feel like that helps. It helps to hear kind of from other people in different places that are going through very similar things. As always, we will never read names. So you won't know who this is. But anyway, I'm going to start with this one. I'm currently married to my husband of 4 years. I figured out I'm a lesbian, and I'm going through some of the worst moments in my life. My husband is in severe denial I'm gay. We have a 4-year-old, and I'm in a relationship with a woman who initially was a friend, but it turned into more. And this woman is looking for contacts or places she can go to try to find some community, which we talked about is so freaking important in this time because community is what's going to allow you to completely be honest and download about yourself. And you really can't do that with your new partner or your catalyst because the truth is that you can't. I mean, they're going through their own experience with you while you're getting divorced. And so it's really hard for them not to have a biased kind of agenda for you. I know when I was coming out, my catalyst had opinions about everything, about my settlement, about my work, about my children, about everything. And it's like, it was really hard to just get unbiased support that's just there to listen and that's in the same boat. So I think everybody is looking for groups. What I would say to that woman is please go on our Instagram and scroll down until you see the map and put where you live and look through other people's comments to see where they live and try to connect with someone in your area. But there's also a Zoom that happens, I think, once or twice a week. And I'll have to have Melissa share the information of that Zoom, but that a woman created that anyone can join. I don't know how large it's gotten, but maybe even they could break it up into a couple different groups that are Zoom groups, because I think even if we can't get together in person because you're in a different city, it still would be super cool and helpful if you could meet with other people that are in the same boat. So anyway, the next email I want to read is someone who wrote in and basically said she is coming out of the closet at 38 after multiple marriages to men and 3 children. So she's saying that the podcast is her catalyst, as that kind of got her to come out. But anyway, I found my soulmate, the love of my life, my person. We've been together 2 years now and have never looked back. We found love, connection, and intimacy that we both imagined could be possible but could never find with a man. Our love couldn't be more perfect, except for one problem that has some huge effects: our kids. We're mothers first, lovers second, and our kids are usually the first priority in most areas. Our kids have been through so much change. We both have co-parenting relationships with our exes, and we live in different school districts. We raise our children with different styles. We have different traditions. We're busy with different extracurricular activities, and our priorities in this area vary greatly. And our kids' personalities seem to clash. We found it incredibly difficult to fulfill the dream of the next step of blending our family and moving in together. We've struggled with this, and it's creating some tension and arguments we don't know how to solve. We also don't even want to address or keep bringing up these discussions because our love is incredibly fulfilling. It puts a damper on things, and we don't feel like we need to be forcing upon ourselves. Trying to force our family to blend feels like it'll ruin our love. We discovered the idea of living apart together, and it has somewhat helped. So she's saying basically living apart together. So they're together but living apart, and it's relaxing some of the expectations, and we realize our reality may look different than the traditional family model. We aren't exactly going to be able to live all together with all our kids and personal responsibilities, and that's going to be okay. We spend half our time at home being moms to our own kids, and we spend the other half in love and in our own little world. We found each other, and that's what matters. Our love is special, and we came so far to find it. We're not going to take it for granted. For now, and probably for quite some time into the future, this is what our relationship will be like. Anyway, I love this email because I went through this with my partner, and at the very beginning, I have to say we moved in pretty quickly, and those early days were, I look back, I cannot believe we made it. It was a massive struggle with not only the kids clashing, but the kids would get in a fight, and it's like immediately you want to take your child's side, and so that would pit us against each other and against each other's children, which, at one point it felt like we weren't even rooting for each other's kids anymore. It was like they became such a nuisance, her child to me and my children to her at the very, very beginning. It was so stressful. I relate to that so much. It was the only thing that caused stress for us. And we had very different children. She had one child, I had 3. So there was also like this feeling of like 3 against 1. And I think looking back, it was so stressful. But to your point, we loved each other so much, or we felt like we did in the early days, that we went to therapy. And at first the therapist said to us, you don't have to live together. And we kind of were like, wait, what? Like that was just kind of like, it scared us a little bit. Like we want to live together. It was almost like this like jarring wake-up call of her saying, maybe you shouldn't live together. And in this listener's case, maybe that's true. But I guess what I would say is we decided in that moment when the therapist said that we really were so desperate, and some may say even selfish, that we were willing to try anything, even if it meant some explosive fights, which is what happened. But the therapist said what she wanted us to try was when the kids clash or get into it, our job for the next, 2 weeks till we saw her again was to take the other child's side, even if you didn't agree with them. So the kids would get in a fight, and it was like our little ones is who mostly would fight. And my job was to take her son's side. Her job was to take my son's side. And it was so hard at first because it was like everything he did was like would drive me crazy because I was on my child's side internally. But what it did is it made me kind of dig into his perspective on things. And I started to kind of have compassion around that. Here's this little boy, his parents got divorced. He used to have his mom all to herself. Now he's been thrown into this family of, 4, basically me and these 3 children. He's become kind of in the pecking order, pretty low in the pecking order. As, my kids were older, they had each other. And I think like doing what that therapist suggested, which was taking his side and she would take my son's side, it definitely like lightened us a little bit. So that was kind of one step in the right direction. Then the next thing that we did, that some people will totally disagree with this, and that's totally fine, but we read this book kind of about how really happy adults that were really happy children are the happiest when their parents are happy. Like whether that be my partner and I, my ex and I, like that is a big determinant to adult happiness and child happiness. And so that like resonated. It scared us too, because we're like, right now, there's a lot of discourse, fighting and like annoyance. As the kids would get into it, then we're getting into it and they can sense that. And so we decided that in addition to like taking the other kid's side, we were going to start to present as, look, we are a couple first. Like I'm Team Maria. Maria is Team Allie. You are the children that live here together. We are going to put each other first. It wasn't like, oh, I love this woman more than I love my children. Do not misunderstand. It was more about like the presentation of how this relationship is going to look and be paramount. And we're in doing that. It was like, if I really want my partner to be happy and loved and feel that loving energy, I need to fully embrace her child and I need her to fully embrace mine. And so in putting each other first and not, we weren't like letting the kids decide dinner and letting the kids decide what we do on the weekends. That all kind of started to fade away, and we started to make it, this relationship is going to be the primary relationship in the house, period. And the kids are going to live here as 4 together, and we're going to show them how happy we are, and we're going to hope that translates to them. We're not going to get involved in their fights. That was another thing that my partner would do, is she would like get in on the fight, where she would like come in and try to monitor it. We're going to stay out of it unless somebody's getting hurt. We set up clear rules with clear expectations for them, and then we removed ourselves. And we again like made our primary relationship the primary relationship in the house. And that too helped. And then I would say over the course of those 2 things, it took another probably year, but steadily it got better. So I think, yes, you can live apart. And our therapist even suggested that. So I know that is a beautiful, not easy, but good thing to do. But then I think down the road, if you wanted to explore living together, those were some of the tricks that the therapist shared with us and that did eventually work. To now our kids really, I feel like, see each other as siblings. There really isn't the feeling of that separateness anymore. The little ones who fought, they look for each other. If one is there without the other, they definitely are waiting for the other one to get there. And we never thought that would happen. That was something that we both longed for, but I truly never believed it was possible, because it just felt so very, very difficult in the state that we were in, because it really, really was such a miserable time at the beginning. I mean, we would talk about how we had anxiety before the kids came back because we knew that it would be very, very difficult. Anyway, I'm going to read one more email, and then we'll look forward to chatting next week. Okay, the next one. So this listener said, I'm 45. I'm in the process of getting divorced from my 23-year heterosexual relationship, and I've been in a lesbian relationship for a year. The divorce system takes a while, and I'm not a fast mover. Anyway, I relate so much to this podcast, all your listeners, the guests. It's just nice to know I'm not alone. I have 3 adult daughters who are all very supportive of my new life, and I couldn't be happier or more at peace. I'm also in recovery from addiction, and once I got sober, I thought I'd lost my sex drive. It turns out I just wanted to be with women. I love that. That's awesome. We love so much getting your messages, and we try to read them and respond, and sometimes it's nice just to read them on air so that people can hear that they're not alone and there's plenty like you. And as always, we say, get on the Insta and put your name, your Insta address, and your city on the map so that we can know where you are. And you'll probably be surprised to find there are other people in your city or close by that are in the same boat. And even if there's just 2 or 3 of you that could get together for lunch, I mean, that's how it started with our group. And it was so helpful. In the end, it definitely saved us. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch up next week. Bye-bye.
Want to support the Lesbian Chronicles podcast? Rate us and write a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We love listener feedback. If you'd like to share your story, email us at melissaandallie@gmail.com. That's Melissa, MELISA, and Allie, ALLI, @gmail.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Lesbian Chronicles.